Welcome to the T. Allen Haynes Radio Show. Conversations with elite business leaders from around the world. And now, here is your host, T. Allen Haynes.
Welcome back to the show. We have a great guest for you today. We have Jim Connelly. He's the Vice President of the Lou Holtz Hall of Fame and National Keynote Speaker for the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And Jim's career began as a young boy living in the projects of a small factory town in western Pennsylvania. A street fighter with a bad attitude, Connelly negotiated with a judge to leave his hometown in lieu of being incarcerated. With $100 in his pocket, he talked a friend into driving him to California. Jim applied and landed a job as a room clerk at the Regency Beverly Wilshire Hotel in Beverly Hills, and within 6 years, he had worked himself up to become the general manager of this $100 million property, a position he held for 10 years. Exploring other business opportunities, Connelly was invited by the chairman of Shearson Lehman to join the Wall Street investment banking firm, and he became the first non-college graduate accepted into the firm's management program and graduated from the New York Institute of Finance in the top 10% of his class. And at the request of the president, Connelly facilitated leadership goal setting for the California Governor's Conference and the President's Committee for Employment of People with Disabilities held at Stanford University. He went on to start many successful businesses and is a consummate entrepreneur, having lived his entire life outside the box. And even with all his success, the accomplishment he is most proud of is the 25-year journey to assist a young woman who, after a serious accident, came back from the brink of death to live independently today. Connelly is also the trustee of the Lou Holtz Hall of Fame, is the director of the Napoleon Hill Speakers Bureau, an in-demand inspirational and motivational speaker. He serves as an advisor to some of America's most successful leaders and entrepreneurs, sharing his extensive business acumen and entrepreneurial spirit to help their companies and grow and thrive during his inner circle weekends. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Just excited to share some of my journey. Along the way, I had some experiences with some world-class New York Times writers who have looked at some of my stuff, and one of their great comments was, Jim, you have to show the entire rainbow, the whole rainbow of your life. And so in doing that, I have to go back, starting in the early years, and you've covered some of it. But when I look back, I realize just how important environment is. I grew up in that Western Pennsylvania ghetto environment, and I excelled in that environment. And for the first 20 years of my life, by any standards, I was a failure at everything. I was a failure in school. I was teenage drinking, teenage driving. Fighting was a daily occurrence. And that environment put me in front of a judge who told me, if I see you again, Jimmy, you're going away for a couple of years. And so I said to him, Your Honor, you'll never see me again. And he said, why, Jimmy? And I thought, boy, you're on a first-name basis with the judge. That's not good. That's not good. Right? So I said to him, if you turn me loose, tomorrow I'm going to California, and you'll never see me again. And he said, Jimmy, that's a good idea. And I did, as you commented earlier.
Wow. So take us back to you're in California and you've accepted this job at one of the most prestigious, hotels in California. So tell us about how that started. I mean, why did you go there to look for a job?
I was a junior in high school, And to get my family wanted to get me out of Turtle Creek, Pennsylvania, so they put me on a Greyhound bus, and I went all the way to Weed, California, up at the Oregon border.
Oh,
and
wow.
I worked for an uncle by marriage in a 60-room hotel right there at the lumber mills and all of that sort of thing. But it was a full-service hotel. And my uncle said, Jimmy, you're a natural. You're really good at this business. You ought to give it some consideration. I came back from my senior year of high school, and I just forgot all about that. You know, I'm back in the ghetto again, back in the problems. And after I got out to California, I got a job at General Controls in Burbank, and I was oiling these monster machines that they made aircraft parts for.
Mm-hmm.
And so all day long I wheeled around 55-gallon drums of oil and cleaned out the machines, got all the chips out of them so they could make these airline parts. And I was making $1.87 an hour. And I always had this need to achieve, and no matter what it was. And so when you were cleaning out one of these machines, you had to shut it down so the machinist wasn't making any money while you were cleaning it out. So I decided to try to clean them while they were running.
Oh,
and I almost lost my arm. And I knew myself, and I said, Jim, you'll do that again. You got to get out of here. So I picked up the LA Times, and it said, room clerk experienced, 9500 Wilshire Boulevard, Beverly Hills. I had no idea where that was. I was living in the Valley in Burbank area. But I took a day off work, and I thought, I cut that little piece out of the paper, the tiny little ad, and I started looking for the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, 9500 Wilshire Boulevard. I drive from the Valley in the wrong direction all the way downtown. By the time I work my way up Wilshire Boulevard to the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, it's after 5 o'clock. So I'm standing in front of this hotel, this magnificent hotel, and I'm so insecure, I'm thinking, I'll bet you have to pay to go in there. So I'm just standing there looking at it in awe, and the doorman jumps me and he says, can I help you? Oh, I said, I had that little ad. I showed him, I said, I'm looking for Mr. Allen, the manager. So he says, go to the front desk. They'll tell you what to do. So this actually happened. As I started through the front door of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, there were beautiful flowing fountains on both sides. And then I stepped into the lobby onto this thick, beautiful red carpeting. I grew up on linoleum, so I didn't even know what that felt like. But the hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I looked around at this amazing chandelier, this beautiful mahogany table in the middle of the lobby with $1,000 worth of flowers on it. And I actually said, this is hard to believe, but I actually said, this is me. The hair stood up on the back of my neck, and I said, this is me. Don't ask me why. I had no idea why I would have it. But I get over to the front desk, and just like in the movies, there's a guy with horn-rimmed glasses and a suit, and he's looking down on me. And I showed him my little ad. I said, I'm looking for Mr. Allen. He said, his office is on the mezzanine. And he turns and walks away. Well, I don't need to tell you there were no mezzanines in Turtle Creek. So I don't know what the hell that is. But I back away from the table, or from the front desk, all the bright lights, and I get over near the elevator, and the elevator door opens, and there's a cute little blonde girl running the elevator. And she says, can I help you? And I said, can you tell me where Mr. Allen's office is at? She said, preposition on the end of a sentence. You must be from Pennsylvania. Swear to God.
Wow.
I said, I'm from Pittsburgh. She said, me too. Come on, I'll show you where his office is. I've had this kind of luck my whole life.
That's awesome.
I remember a minute ago I was ready to run out the door, and now I'm up in the mezzanine with this cute blonde girl taking me directly to his office. Well, because it took me all day to find it, it's after 5 o'clock. So I go up to his office, and the secretary is gone. If she's there, I won't even get by him because I had nothing to offer, you know. So listen to this. So I step in, go through that door, filled with fear, but go through the door. And I circle around, and I find him in a back office sitting there reading the LA Times. And he says, his name was Al Allen. And he looked up, and he said, "What can I help you, son?" I showed him my little ad I cut out of the paper. I said, "I'm looking for Mr. Allen." He said, "I'm Mr. Allen. Sit down." Now, here's what gets amazing. I said, "I want to be the new room clerk." And he said, "Do you have any experience?" I said, "Well, I worked one summer at the Weed Hotel in Weed, California, up at the Oregon border." He said, "Did you work for Al Ward?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "If you can work for Al Ward, you can work for me. He taught me the business."
Oh, my Lord.
And send me down to the desk to get hired. Now I get down to the desk, and the front office manager is already annoyed at me because I didn't interview with him. He didn't have an input. I'm the new clerk. The first thing he says to me is, "Go up to the police department and get fingerprinted." He said, "You can't work in those clothes you're wearing." I had on a light green suit. And, you know, it's all dark clothes in the hotel. And so as I'm going up to the police department, I'm thinking, they're going to fingerprint me, and they're going to find out I got in a fight in Turtle Creek, and with, you know, there may be some stuff in the record books there that'll hurt me. So I called my uncle, who was a cop in Turtle Creek, and told him I was going to get fingerprinted. If there's anything in the files, if you can get it out, I'd appreciate it. I mean, this story's amazing. When I think about it, I go crazy. So I never asked him, by the way, what he did. But I did get fingerprinted and got through the process. And now they come down to the desk, and I'm the new clerk, except I can't type or spell.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sitting there at an IBM typewriter trying to type up with the information. You know, you register, you put your name and address in the small card. And I had to type it onto a folio where they could, you know, charge your charges while you were a guest, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I'm chewing up that portfolio and the numbers, and I'm in trouble. So I run over to the cashier and I said to her, "What do you do here every day that you hate to do?" And she told me, I says, "We're switching. I'm going to do that for you, and you got to type these portfolios for me." And so I was always trying to create some way.
Yeah.
But I found my spot in life. That's what happened. I found my spot. And it became so important to me to do a good job. I always came early. I always stayed late. I worked 6 years without a vacation.
Oh, my God.
First 6 years at the Beverly Wilshire. Why did I do that? I was insecure. I was afraid to take a vacation. I thought they might replace me.
Yeah.
And by then, I'm now hiring the guys out of Cornell University Hotel School. And how I climbed that ladder was when I'd get off work, if I was working 7 to 3 in the afternoon, I had a 1949 Mercury that I always throw this picture up when I'm speaking nationwide. And if I got off work at 3 o'clock, I couldn't go home because the car wouldn't start. It would vapor lock in the heat. And so the first day or two that happened, I went to a local bar there, and I figured I'd just hang around till the sun went down. And there was James Cagney and Pat O'Brien and Jack Lemmon. And I'm making $121 every 2 weeks, by the way. And so I get mixed up with these characters, and now I'm broke. I don't have money for the rest of the event. So what I would do is when I got off at 3 o'clock and the sun was still up till 6 or 7, I went to the owner of the hotel and I said, I love this business. I'd like to work in another department every day, no charge, so I can learn the business. And he said, okay. So I said, please put out a memo to all the department heads that I had the approval to work in these other departments. So he did. Well, I knew there'd be pushback. Who is this guy? Is he a spy? What is he? So as I went to each department head, I said, what's on your desk today that you don't want to do? I'll do that for you. And so I built that relationship with these people because I helped them.
What a great way. What a great icebreaker. I mean, it's like, what is it that you hate doing today? And I'll do that for you. I mean, yeah, that's amazing.
And what happened was, as I started to climb up the ladder, I had support. Everybody was behind me.
I guess.
Because if you can't get there alone, and people have to want you to succeed as well as you do, or you're never going to get there. So that's how I got up to that spot. And there's some funny sides to it. I have this green suit, and they just told me I can't work there. So I'm out in Van Nuys, California, going home, and I look at a place called Harrison Frank's, and it says suits on sale. So I pull over my 49 Mercury that's steaming like an engine, and I go into Harrison Frank, and I ask for the manager, and they bring him over, and I said to him, I'm new in California. I don't have any money. I don't have any credit, but I got a job today. And he said, where? And I said, the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. Give him a suit, he said. Give him a suit, 2 white shirts, short sleeves, and a tie. And that was the day I knew it was a label-buying society. He identified with it, and I walked out of there with a $65 suit. And by the way, I wore that suit 7 days a week. So when I was under the bright lights, it shined like someone Simonized it.
There you go. Wow. That, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that with us. And this comes up. I love answering this next question, and I think I know the answer, but what along the way, was there a book that influenced you?
It was Think and Grow Rich. What happened was I had my first mentor there at the hotel, and mentoring is everything, environment, mentoring, and hard work. But the first mentor I had, I just want to back up, his name was Tommy Guinan. He was a mafia member. The mafia operated out of the hotel as well. And Tommy, after I was there a couple of weeks, came up and he said, Jimmy, I've been watching you. You're a nice young man. You're clean cut. You're hardworking. I see you're here morning, noon, and night. He said, through these doors are going to come the most successful people in every walk of life. And he said, you're going to have an opportunity to audition for them by the way you treat them. And he said, the sky's the limit for you if you're smart enough to do that the right way. And so that was my first introduction of extending yourself on behalf of other people. And Tommy was a beautiful man, and he was out of the Chicago syndicate. Some of those guys, see, we had some of the mob lived in the hotel permanently. So that's why I talk about my life with the rich, famous, and the mafia. But,
forthcoming book.
Yeah, that's my next book. Yeah, that's a good one. But back to your question, there was an alcoholic who lived at the hotel who was very successful at one time in his life, but had a lot of trouble through drinking, and he became the controller for just a single one hotel, the Beverly Wilshire. And my father was an alcoholic, and so I understood alcoholism, and we became friends because he lived alone there. His life was in shambles, but he was sober now. And he took an interest in me. He had been a very successful man, and so he's the one that he could see I was just a street kid. And so he gave me the book Think and Grow Rich, and that was the beginning. And it's amazing that I'm a speaker on their behalf today, but the first thing I did when he gave me the book was look in the back to make sure there was no examination to take.
No examination required, huh? There you are.
Oh, how did we get lost?
Something dropped off. I don't know what happened, but we got you back. That's all that matters. So we were finishing up the Think and Grow Rich part, and you looked in the back to make sure there was no exam.
Yeah, there was no examination because my educational performance had been so poor. You know, it took me 5 years to get through a 4-year high school. And when you flunk in the ghetto, you're really a problem child. You know, I just hardly ever went to school and I had to repeat my sophomore year. And so school was not my friend. I didn't have the right clothes. I was embarrassed all the time. So I spent most of my life in the pool room growing up, running numbers, and until I got out of that environment, which changed everything. But now, of course, once I was introduced to reading and learning and getting motivated and attitude, and adjusting my attitude, I just, as you know, I'm a keynote speaker for the foundation. That was a speaker at the 100th anniversary of Napoleon Hill. So, yeah. And then the other book he gave me was Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz.
Wow.
Which is a good book. And then, of course, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So when I speak at the Holtz thing every year, I take those 3 books and put them out there for the graduating high school seniors to see that they might take an interest in something like that. So you're influenced by this book, and you're making your way up the chain there at the hotel. But what is it that drives you today and your passion to help the people that you help? You know, I sincerely believe that if I could do this, other people can too. And so I get a thrill out of laying out the groundwork for them. If they're in marketing, I know how to assist them in increasing their business. I know about long-term relationships, trust. You know, when I talk to some of the bigger people around the country, Dick Notabart, the chairman of the board of Ameritech, and the head of the Notre Dame trustees, we sit and talk, and we talk about these old days. And he said, Jimmy, people trusted you. And so I emphasized to develop that trust in these long-term relationships. Mm-hmm. And I just get such a thrill out of seeing somebody improve. And it's really, I don't want to say it's not that hard, but it's all doable. And so the beautiful letters I still get from people that I've helped earlier in their career, and I still do it now. And, for the last 10 years, I've spoke at the Holtz deal. And I just, when I get up to speak, like, I'm trying to convince one person in that audience. If I can get one person to improve their life or believe, then I'm really happy. I'm really happy. And I tell them that find a mentor. The mistakes I've made in my life were when I didn't have a mentor for whatever reason, in between positions, he died, whatever the reason. I just, mentoring to me comes natural, and I just really, really believe it. And while I'm there at the hotel, those mafia guys, I get to know them, and the next thing you know, because they lived there, Frank Sinatra used to visit there all the time. And I would catch him and to say hello to him. And one day he said to Swifty Morgan out of the mob, he said that Jimmy doesn't smile very much. Well, the reason I didn't is I'd gotten a couple of teeth knocked out when I was playing football, and the caps on them were just embarrassing, and wasn't done well. So Sinatra sends me up to his dentist on Bedford Drive in Beverly Hills, Dr. Rubin, and he looks and he says, I can fix you up, son, but get down and get a loan from Union Bank because you don't make enough money for me to trust you. So I got no money, I got nothing, right? So I come back, and Swifty Morgan, who lived permanently at the hotel in Suite 647, he was a longtime friend of Al Capone. He was really an old man. So he said, what happened up with Dr. Rubin? So I told him he sent me to Union Bank to get a loan. So he says, well, I'll talk to Frankie. Next day, the dentist calls me and he says, you know the right people. Frank Sinatra's going to pay for your teeth. Come on up.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and then he and I became very good friends, up until he died. But so what I share with young people is, if you want to progress, whatever city you live in, get a job either in the best restaurant or the best hotel, and follow my formula, and it can take you places you can't believe. I mean, I'm blessed to have had relationships with 6 presidents of the United States and 6 Heisman Trophy winners. I mean, I cover the board, And it was all from that kind words from that first mafia guy who woke me up. And he said, you're in position. It's up to you. You can do it. And but my philosophy, every day I get up, first thing I do is I look for somebody that I can give a sincere compliment to. Whether I'm in the grocery store or Starbucks, whatever, if a guy's dressed real nice, I'll say, I hope you win the case, like he's a lawyer. If a young woman dressed well and has done some special touch, I tell them how great they look. And you know what happens when that happens? Their kindness back to me sets me up for a great day. I consistently try to enhance any situation or anybody's life.
Beautiful.
And it doesn't cost anything to be nice to people.
That's right. And that's a great thing to have and share. So what are you finding? I know you mentor from teenagers to titans in industry and presidents, but what do you find to be the biggest misconception that people are having about achieving success?
I think it's fear, the fear of failure. As you can see, my whole life I've been operating outside of the so-called box.
Mm-hmm.
But the fear of failure, and many, many times I had that fear of failure. For example, when I finally left the Beverly Wilshire and went to Wall Street, now I'm back in New York because the chairman of the board waived the rules. You're supposed to be a college graduate. And he says, "Oh, no, Jim, we'll waive it for you, And so they send me back to New York, and I'm preparing to take the New York Stock Exchange exam, and I've never passed an examination in my life. And so I'm walking down Broadway, and I'm thinking, what the hell's wrong with you? You were in charge in running Beverly Hills. Everything was your way. You had the best friends and the life of Riley, and you uproot yourself, and you're living in New York, you're making $465 a month, and you're a trainee in a class that's loaded with MBAs and PhDs. So I'm terrified, frightened to death. I'm afraid I'll never pass the examination. So I obviously put myself in positions throughout my life that I wasn't qualified for by the books, but I find a way to make it happen. And what I did to pass that exam the first time was I taped into a tape recorder every old exam I could find, every question and answer in every book, and I just walked. I didn't have any money, so I would walk Broadway from Central Park Side all the way down to 42nd Street, listening on a headset to the question and the answer. And when I went in that Saturday morning to take that New York Stock Exchange exam, there were all the big shots, John Carlock III from Harvard and so from Princeton and UCLA. And there I am with my 5-year high school diploma. But to make the story short, I passed that exam the first time, and it's the only exam I ever passed. But
well, your tenacity and your workaround ability is just, that is so inspirational. And I know what your greatest story is, and you've, like I said, been around titans and business titans, but tell us the greatest story of how you've helped someone.
Well, this young lady, her name is Donna Jones, and she, I met her, I was coming out of Aspen with one of my clients in a private plane, and we decided that we wanted to get a bite to eat. And so I said, well, if these were in the high rising days, I said, and I said, well, we looked at the lights of Vegas. I said, well, let's land in Vegas and we'll have dinner there and a good bottle of wine. And I've always enjoyed a good bottle of wine. So we landed, and walking through the casino, my partner wins $20,000 on the way to their restaurant. And so now they don't want us to leave with that money, so they're going to pick up our dinner. And this was at the MGM. And the owner of the MGM, Kokorian's a good friend of mine. So I'm saying, just calm down, behave, we'll be good. We went to the dining room, and there's a couple of young girls sitting not far from us, so we said, give us their tab too. Turned out this young lady, Donna, was an employee of Kodak, and she lived in Southern California. And so after dinner, they joined us. We chatted for a little bit. I sent them to the Frank Sinatra show. I didn't go. I didn't want to sit through it. And at any rate, she became a friend. And I was going up to Missoula, Montana, and we were going to send our snowmobiles up, and we were going to have this big week up there snowmobiling. And Donna went with she was salesperson for Kodak and had a very good career. And I had mentored her, and she became the #1 salesperson in the United States for Kodak, one of my pride and joy jobs. And she wanted to come with us on that trip up snowmobiling in Montana. I tried to encourage her. The book will tell that story that I wrote. I tried to encourage her not to waste a couple of days in Montana because we were going to go to Paris and she could go there and really learn something. But she wanted to get to every state before her brother. So sure enough, she came along. And while I was back in the lodge, she went snowmobiling with a group of people and had a terrible accident. And she was unconscious. And I had to bring in a helicopter from Missoula. We were up in the mountains and got her to the hospital and kept her alive, but she had a severe head injury and she didn't wake up for 48 days.
Oh, wow.
In the meantime, I had to get a hospital airplane to eventually fly her back to Connecticut to her family. Then I went there every weekend and sat at her bedside. And they were in the process of warehousing her for life. And I went to see where they were going to put her. And I said, I can't let you do that. Give her to me. So the family acquiesced, and I put her on an airplane and flew her back to California and put her in Daniel Freeman Hospital and into the rehabilitation program. And she had to learn to walk, talk, read, write all over again. And that's 30 years ago, and I'm still taking care of her. She lives independently now in Manhattan Beach, and that's where I was living at the time of the... And she's kind of like the mascot of the town. Everybody knows her and looks after her, and she doesn't work. That's the one challenge. But she reads a lot and watches television and rides her bike to Marina City Club, which was one of my clients for years. And so I bit off a big one there. It was part of, I was in a position financially to help, and emotionally I was involved because she was my guest on the trip, and I just couldn't let go. For some crazy reason, I couldn't let go. But she lives really great, and when I wrote that book about the story, One More Sunset, it was based on the title. Was when I picked her up at the airport, was going to take her to the hospital in L.A., and the sun was setting. And I said, look at that sunset, how beautiful. She couldn't see it. That part of her brain hadn't opened up yet. And so I said, my commitment to myself was, I want this young lady to see one more sunset.
Awesome.
And that's that story. So, yeah, it's a journey.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, and we look forward to diving into that story as well, into that book. But what would be your best piece of advice for someone that they think they're down on their luck, or they're just failing and failing and failing? What would be your best piece of advice?
Find one person who you can trust and you believe in, and get that person to believe in you. One person can turn your life around. There's no doubt about that. It happens over and over, whether it's with an athlete and a coach, or of somebody in business who comes in. You got to find that one person. He or she is out there. You can't give up. Keep looking for that person who has been successful that you trust. And you can pour your heart out and ask for help and measure up to that person and take the advice and do what they give you. And start to feel good about yourself, your self-esteem. See, back when I was a little boy, this is what makes the Notre Dame story so interesting. When I was 10 years old, I wore the neighbor's clothes. I wore the neighbor's shoes. My father was an alcoholic. We lived in the projects. I was a failure in school. What happened to me is my mother, a little Irish woman, loved Notre Dame. And so we would together listen to the Notre Dame games on the radio in 1946, 47, 48, 49. They never lost a game. Somehow I tied my self-esteem to Notre Dame.
Nice.
And when they won, I won. And instead of being called a pig shit Irish kid from the projects, I was Notre Dame.
Nice.
And in 1946, the Heisman Trophy winner, Leon Hart, was from my hometown, Turtle Creek. So I got to know him. And so Notre Dame was always up there in the clouds, and I got to find a way to get there, and I got to thank Notre Dame for what they did for me. So mine wasn't so much a person as it was an institution. But everybody I met who had any connection or love for Notre Dame could see mine. They didn't know why, because the first thing they'd ask me is, did you graduate from there? I said, hell no, I couldn't get in. I remember. I remember Eric Parchegian checked into the hotel, and I was all over him, and he said to me, Jimmy, when did you graduate? And I said, Coach, I've never even been there. He said, how did you? You haven't even been there. So he said, you're coming back with me. So my first trip to Notre Dame was with Eric Parchegian. So
wow.
Good introduction, yeah.
Well, we're super excited for you to be a part of Speak Like a Champion speaker tour at Notre Dame in July, and we're just so grateful and so excited for you to be a part of the VIP speaker event. So thank you on that, and congratulations.
And I want to thank you. I'm already redoing my slideshow, because I got to get more Notre Dame in there when I show around the country. But this, for me, is the pinnacle of my success.
Oh, wow.
I don't care when I speak in Vegas to thousands. No. This experience for me is the crowning glory. I will stand in front of those 100 people and be so proud that I'm at Notre Dame, went from listening to them on the radio in 1946 to be standing there today with you and your group and your team. That's huge for me.
Oh, wow. Well, as I said, we are so grateful. And if anyone is interested in finding out more about you, what should they do, or where should they go?
Well, because of you're contacting me, if they'll just email me, because I've told you I was going to send a bunch of stuff to you, but I'll put some packages together and send them out to the right people. I'm very proud of the journey, and this is just a great way to put the cherry on it. So I can't wait. Oh, I know. Would you be kind enough to send me exactly what it is you want me to forward to other people to get them interested? I can't wait to send that out to people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll do that, and we'll put some things in the notes here for the show as well. They can find that there. So again, Jim, thank you very much for being on the show. Incredible story, and I'm just so honored that you've accepted my invitation, and I just can't wait to meet with you, and I assure you we're going to have some long nights chatting for sure.
Oh, yeah, and get that Duffy guy, too.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. So,
all right, my friend, thanks a lot.
There you have it for this edition of the show. We'll see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to the T. Allen Haynes Radio Show with T. Allen Haynes. Conversations with elite business leaders from around the world. We will see you next time on the T. Allen Haynes Radio Show.